Greetings YouTube, DJ Bonebreaker coming at you from the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida for yet another episode of Tech and Travel. So yeah, this is kind of like the geek mecca of the world. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Not sure, but if you look to your left, I believe it's looks like the Falcon 9. All the way to your left, we'll be passing it up. I'll be slowing up.
In the world, construction of the VAB required 65,000 cubic yards of concrete.
And that is the Falcon 9.
1 million steel bolts amounting to almost 100,000 tons of steel. Notice the flag painted on the outside of the VAB? It's the size of a 21-story building. The blue section alone is the size of an NBA basketball. Each star is 6 feet across, and each red and white stripe is wide enough for this bus to drive down. And the entire VAB? It's so huge that the Roman Colosseum would fit on the roof with room to spare for parking. By volume, the VAB can fit 3.5 Empire State Buildings, and it would take 250 billion ping pong balls to fill it.
When we pass the traffic light, if you look over to your right, you'll see the vehicle assembly building there. The gray doors are 456 feet tall, and they take 45 minutes to completely open or close.
They're all with compacted sand that can support all the weight. And then once we're there, we'll drop it all off. And a few days later, there'll be a launch. We'll come back, we'll pick the mobile launcher up, and we'll bring it back to the VAB to start the process all over again.
Now when we get to this intersection and when we pass this little building here, if you look to your right, you'll notice that there's 2 crawlers there, one on each side of the building with the rusty roof. Just a little more information on the crawler. The crawler has 2 cabs on the top, one in the back and one in the front. The crawler can only travel forward, it cannot go in reverse. Also has 8 tracks. Each one of those tracks have 57 cleats, and each cleat weighs 1 ton. Now they said it can get up to 1 mile per hour with the rocket on top of it, but I forgot to mention it also gets an amazing 32 feet to the gallon.
Wow.
If you look straight ahead now, or when I make this turn, look to your right, that black structure with the lightning rod, that is launch pad 39A. That is where SpaceX, one of the pairs of SpaceX launches the Falcon 9 from that we just saw. Also on this side, you'll notice that there's 3 lightning masts. Each one of them are 600 feet tall. After all, we are the capital in the USA when it comes to lightning. And in that vicinity, we have launch pad 39B. That is where the SLS rocket from Artemis 1 will be launching on November 14th. So far, that's the date that we do have. We now arrive to Saturn V. Please remain seated till this bus comes to a complete stop. I secure the bus, open the door, and open the gate. Sorry.
TPSS, verify go for launch. TPSC, verify go for launch. SRO, verify go for launch. LM, verify go for launch. ELO, verify go for launch. CBTS conference.
Attention all personnel. The countdown clock will start on my mark at T-minus 3 minutes. 3, 2, 1, mark.
This is launch control. T-minus 3 minutes and counting. We have completed our communications checks with the Apollo 8 astronauts in the cabin, and the communications are go.
We verify the press complete on T1 bar. T1 bar, you are cleared for flying command.
During this period, and once we do get the firing command, the various tanks within the 3 stages in Saturn V launch vehicle begin to pressurize.
Fire command open.
We have firing command. The firing command is in when about the automatic sequence. T-minus 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Our status board indicates that all aspects are ready. Instrument unit is ready, spacecraft ready. Final check of the emergency detection system. That ready by all set up. First stage preparations are completed.
All systems remain okay. We're on. Ready to go to runway. Stand by orders. Okay, you're on. All systems go.
Minus 45 seconds and coming. First stage oxygen tank has been pressurized, and the pressure is still building up. Coming up in 90 seconds, mark T-minus 90 seconds and coming. The Apollo 8 crew standing by, spacecraft commander Frank Warner, Jim Walker, Bill Handles. And now we report that the liquid hydrogen tank in the first stage is pressurized. 1 minute 15 seconds. First stage becomes pressurized at this time as we come up on a 60-second mark about the flights of the moon. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. The vehicle now is completely pressurized. We're coming up on a power transfer shortly. We have the power transfer. We're now on the flight batteries within the launch vehicle. Final reports coming from Frank Borman at this time. Final look at the switch list of orders to the spacecraft. 20 seconds. All our sides. We are still rolling at this time.
15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 7, 5, 4,
successfully orbited the moon, and the astronauts returned safely to the Earth. I know. I'm Jim Lovell, and I was one of the crew of this spacecraft, Apollo 8. We were the first men to see the surface of the moon from just a few miles away. But it was the hundreds of thousands of men and women who worked in that team, and the millions of people who supported the mission that really made it possible. That way, I guess, we all went to the moon. Now, on the other side of those doors, you'll find an actual Saturn V moon rocket. It's still the most powerful, the most complex machine ever built. And I guess it's the only one that can take you to another planet. I actually got to fly on a second flight to the moon called Apollo 13. But that's another story.
So what we've got here is a life-size command service module for the Apollo program. So this bit up here is the command module, which is where the 3 astronaut crew would spend the entire 3-day trip from the Earth to the moon and 3 days from the moon back to the Earth, living in very cramped quarters. And the service module contained all the rocket fuel, oxygen, and other materials and power to support the command module. And the maneuvering thrusters and main thruster would inject the entire spacecraft into lunar orbit, and then once they were done with the lunar module and the surface mission on the moon, it would provide enough thrust to escape lunar orbit and send the spacecraft back to Earth, at which point the command module would separate from the service module. Service module would burn up in the atmosphere, and the command module would make re-entry and then splash down in the ocean, where it would be retrieved by U.S. Navy ships. Okay, so this here is a real life-size Saturn V rocket, which is freaking huge. Like right now, what I'm walking past is just the first stage of the rocket. And what's equally amazing is that it took the combined thrust of both the first stage and the second stage here to get the Apollo spacecraft into Earth orbit. Once it got into Earth orbit, the third stage would fire and accelerate the craft to the 25,000 miles per second escape velocity, or sorry, 25,000 mile per hour escape velocity to break free of the Earth's gravitational pull and send the command service module and lunar module off towards lunar orbit. But geez, just look how big this thing is. Oh, and speaking of the lunar module, here we are. This is what actually would land on the moon. It was actually, believe it or not, the lunar module is actually a 2-stage vehicle, because they'd use the thrusters in the bottom stage to land. And then once the astronauts were done with their lunar exploration mission, the base would actually be used as a launch pad for the top stage, which was a part that contained, where the crew cabin for the astronauts was, and return to lunar orbit, dock with the command service module, transfer the 2 astronauts who went to the surface back to the command module, and then it would be jettisoned before the CSM would boost its way out of lunar orbit and back towards Earth for the journey home. Well, everyone, this concludes my visit to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. Hope you had as much fun watching this as I did, visiting here and recording this video. And until next time, this is DJ Bonebreaker signing off.